Hello everybody and welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna and I am an acrylic artist. So thank you so much for stopping by to paint with me today. Today we're going to be painting something that is really cute and kind of whimsical. It's a project for Halloween, so it'll be cute hanging on your front door or tucked inside a Halloween wreath. So let's take a look. Here it is. I've titled it Broom Parking. Isn't that witch just so cute? But the cat really makes the whole thing, I think. So this is painted on my pumpkin surface from my website, lonnalamb.com, and I think that you're going to have fun painting this. I made the palette a limited color palette, but you can mix it up and change it up any way that you would like to. The background is stenciled with one of my stencils from my website called Bricks and Stones, so you can find that also on my website. I think it's going to be a super fun project for you, and I just loved painting this. It was just so much fun, so much fun. I'm going to be painting with Deco Art Americana acrylic paints, but you can use whatever paints that you would like to use. So let's grab our paints and supplies and let's get ready to paint. Alright, so I'm going to tell you how to prepare your surface. The first thing that you want to do is apply a coat of multi-purpose sealer with either a dampened 2-inch foam roller or a dampened artist sponge, just slightly damp. So you get it full of water and you wring out the water and then you squeeze it onto a paper towel and get the excess moisture out of it, and that makes it slightly damp. The reason we do this is because the sponge has now filled up with water. It will not fill up with your medium or your paint and not release it. So once it's got the water in it, it lets the paint or the medium release out of it. Okay, so you want to apply a coat of this, let it dry, and then with the same tool, either the sponge or the 2-inch foam roller, apply 2 coats of Morning Mist. Okay, that's the paint that we're going to use for the background. So I've got mine on here. It is dry. I am going to very lightly sand this. Now, multi-purpose sealer is important to have on here because if you want to tape any areas of your project, it will keep the paint from lifting off. It seals the wood, makes the paint adhere, and then you can do all the things that you need to do to the surface without worrying about damaging it. So multi-purpose sealer is an important step. If you do not have it, you could take some decoupage matte medium, it needs to be matte, and add a little bit of water to it and apply that on here and lightly sand it. That will help seal the wood and help your paint stick. Okay, so now that we have our background done, we want to make a horizon line. Now on my original design, I just painted it on a piece of my, a page out of my book that I practice my paintings on. So it's quite a bit smaller than this. So we're going to adjust for a line across here, because if I put it all the way down here, there's going to be a lot of open space up here. So I'm going to move it up my surface. Now the surface I'm painting on is my pumpkin surface from my website. So I think I'm going to put the horizon line right here. So I'm just going to draw a line across here. And let's see how far up we are. I'm going to go by this middle section down here on the bottom. And we are about 4.5 inches up. So 4.5 inches from the bottom. And I drew a line on there. That's for where I'm going to separate my, and that looks like it is almost in the middle. I think I might lower that just a little bit. I don't want the line to be directly in the center, so I'm going to come down to about 4 inches. That's about 4 1/4, but I would say 4 inches is a good amount there. I'm just going to erase this line. Alright, so now that we have our line on here at 4 inches, we're going to stencil our background. So up on the top back here I did bricks, and down here I did stones. And this is my stencil, bricks and stones. I have 2 different sizes of bricks and 2 different sizes of stones. And I use the small stones down here and the larger bricks up here. So you just want to lay your stencil down. There's no right or wrong here. If you want to tape it on there so it doesn't move, that is always a good idea. Let me grab my tape if I can get it. It was stuck. My tape was stuck. Imagine that. Okay, so I am going to just tape it down right here. And then the paint, let me grab my paint over here. Forgot to bring it over. Got it all selected out and then forgot to bring it over. Okay, so our paint, we're going to mix well, we're not really going to mix. We're going to pick up both colors. We're going to do black and white. So I'm just going to put a little bit out on my paper plate here. Ooh, or a lot out. That was a lot of white. I'm going to use a fingertip dauber. These are available on my website as well. You can use a makeup sponge or a stencil brush if you like. I want to use this because I like the texture that it's going to be giving me. So I dampened it like I do any other sponge, and I took the excess moisture off right there on my paper towel. So it should just be slightly damp. Let me take a little bit more. It still felt a little too damp. Okay. So now I've got my black and my white on here, and I want to double load, so I'm going to tip one corner into the white and one into the black. I'm going to blend them. I don't want that black to take over, so I think I might tap a little bit of that off. And we want to have this really kind of mottled look on our stones, where they're not completely all black, they're not completely all white. And we just want to do a kind of, you don't have to fill in every square, so some of them could just be a part of a square. You know, don't feel like you have to fill it all in. So we're not going to fill it all in. We're just going to go along here and put some random bricks. Where's my line? My line's down here, so I'm going to take some bricks all the way down here. And just do a kind of a hit and miss kind of thing on there. I think I might do a couple more up here. I'm going to grab a little bit more paint here. I want a tiny bit more black in my sponge thing. Some of these are just a little too light down here. So I want to get some black on them. And I'll just do a little bit of that one. Maybe this one up here. So we've just got a nice little, I'm going to put some on this one because my black paint got over, and so it looks kind of weird having that line there. Alright, just some random brick thing going on, and we can do this all the way across. I might do a couple up here. More black on my thing. And just do a couple random ones. Piece of one there. So just do a couple, and I got my black paint was a little bit too much right there. So I'm going to tap some into these that I got paint on. Okay, and then over here we're going to have the door over here, but we want to see a few little bricks peeking through, so just tap a little bit in there. Okay, just be very random about it. Try not to overthink it. So I'm going to take my brush and try and get as much, not my brush, my sponge here, and try and get as much of that paint out of it as I can. because I want to put mostly white in it now. So we're going to, let's see, we're just going to pick up some Snow White now, and let's place some random stones on here. A little bit of that black turns your white gray, not a problem. Don't stress out about it. These are going to be very subtle, so I might even pick up a little bit. Well, no, because I just came in and glazed over them at the end. So we're just going to tap in some white stones. Just like a little cluster of stones here. Lift this up because I didn't tape it down, so I want to go ahead and put this big one in since I have a much bigger area to stencil. Load a little bit more white paint in my sponge. I'm going to tap here in case I've got too much. And just put another little layer of white on here. Okay, we got some nice fun stones there. We're going to put just a few back here so that we can see. Don't get carried away. We'll put a few right here. Okay. I put a couple right here, not too many. I've still got just white in my sponge here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more. Okay. And again, you're just being random across the bottom here, and then I want some that will be right here where the door will be. You know, like you're stepping up to the door and it's... I'm not going to worry too much if it goes over the line because we'll be painting that black, so... Let me see how those look. Well, let's do a few more here. Finish these, make them a whole stone. Okay, that looks good. So we've got a little randomness going here. Seems like I put just a few extremely light ones right through here. So I'm just going to use what paint is left on my sponge, and I'm going to do one more little one here. And that one was pretty dark, so I'll touch it back with my finger. And I think that ought to be pretty good for the stones. We want to keep everything pretty random here. As we put in our elements, if we feel like we need any more of this stuff, we can come back in and add it. Like when we add the door, if we feel like we need like a brick up here, you know, we can do that. You can take the bricks all the way up into this the handle of the pumpkin if you would like to. Why not? We'll just make that pumpkin part of the wall. Touch over here and remove. Okay, so we just took the bricks all the way up, and you can just do like one or two in there. You don't have to fill the whole handle. So we've got a nice good variety. Now you want to take this and either put it in your water basin and let it soak, or take it to your sink and immediately clean it with a little bit of hand sanitizer and just clean it till it runs clear. If you need to use a little bit of soap, what I do is I wash my hands with soap, and then the foam that is on my hands from washing my soap, I take this and swirl it around in that foam, so I'm not filling this sponge full of soap and it takes forever to get it out if you do that way. So, you know, go ahead and like wash your hands, and the bubbly part that's on your hands, just tap some of that in there, and then I tap it in the bottom of my sink until it runs clear, and it takes no time at all to clean these. So I'm gonna go get mine clean while this dries, and then we're gonna come back. Okay, so this background is all dry. We need to, before we transfer our lines on here, to shade along this horizon line here, or whatever line you want to call it. So I am just going to pre-dampen this. We want this to be a very washy color. We're going to use lamp black, and we really want to work it into our brush. I'm going to touch the water side of my brush and remove some of that water out of there, because I don't want my paint going all the way across, and with all that water in there, that's exactly what it's going to do. So I am just going to follow this line right here, hopefully follow it, and just put a little bit of a shadow back here. And if it gets a little bit too dark, then just take your paper towel and remove a little bit of it. We will come back and, well, we'll just go ahead and do it now. I think in my original one I did it after, but it'll be just as easy to do it either way. We'll just shade along this side of it as well. A little bit more paint here. So both sides of the horizon line here will have a little float of black. And you can use your mop brush. Let me grab my mop brush here. I want to make sure I'm not making shadow stuff up here. Down here I don't matter so much, but I don't really want it on the wall back here. So that is what we're going to do. We need to let this dry. Now make sure it is just a wash of color. You see how light mine is? The only reason it looks dark right there is because it was back to back. It doesn't have to be that dark. We're going to be putting our door here, so some of that will be covered over. We'll put our bike rack here, so some of that will be covered over. Our witch will be here, so this is in the background. We don't want it super bright and anything like that. So if we have to come back and darken it when we're done, we can do that. But for now, we just want to keep it really light. So we want to get this completely dry. We're going to transfer on our witch and her broom, and we can transfer on the cat. We're going to transfer on the broom stand and the sign, and then you can put your shapes on for your window and door. And then we're going to come back and start getting some base coats. There's a lot of base coats to take care of with this one, because there is a lot going on in this particular design, so we want to get all of the base coating done first. Okay, let's get some base coats on this stuff right now. So on the face and the hands, let's see, is that all? Yes, just the face, the neck, and the hands. Now my line drawing is not the best here, but I'm just going to go with it. I've got my lines a little dark. I normally wouldn't want them quite this dark, but it will work out just fine. So because this surface is a different width than what my paper that I painted on was, I'm not seeing as much of my door over here. So everything kind of got scooted just slightly, but it will still work. We don't have to see the whole door. Everything will work out just fine. So, ooh, that's some thick paint there. So we're going to take our natural buff is the color we're going to be using. And we're going to, everything will get 2 coats of paint. So I'm just going to do 1 coat on here to show you where all of the base coats lay in. And then I'll go off camera and apply my second coats. So you want to make sure that you get 2 coats on everything. Every color that we put on here will need to have 2 coats. We're just going to go right up to the hat, even though she's going to have some hair coming over there. We want the hair to look like it's behind her skin, so. And then her neck here, go to a smaller brush if you need to. I'm just quickly going through these. I will go to a smaller one for my hands because I don't think I can get that big old paintbrush in those little places. So I'm going to grab a small round brush, and then the hands get this color. Now we're going to be mixing some colors, some gray colors here. Now I'm just going to paint the whole hand in. When we bring the broom handle down, we'll see a little bit of it, but for now we'll just go ahead and paint it all in. Just makes it a little bit easier. All right, the hat and the cape, the hat and the cape are Wild Orchid. So this is Wild Orchid, it's a purple. And it does seem like there's a lot of colors in this, and I tried to keep them minimal, but you know, it is what it is. So the hat, this is such a pretty color. And go right up to your lines. If you don't go over your lines, you can come in and erase them. But if you go over them, no problem, because you know this is a pretty opaque color, so it'll cover up those graphite lines. Okay. And this part of the hat. Turn your piece as you need to apply your paint. Make it easy on yourself. And then this part gets some of this color. We'll come back in and add our lines that tell us where we're needing to go after we get our 2 coats in. So, and then we want that here. And then the cape is also this color. And one of the brooms will be this color when we get to the brooms, but the brooms won't be added in for, you know, a while. We have to get that stand done over there first. So use a smaller brush if you need to. And then right inside here we'll see a little peek of the cape in here. Okay, so that's the base color for that. We have a lot of base colors that have to go in before we can even start painting on this. The hat band, the belt, the boots, the collar, and the cuffs. They are all turquoise blue. So turquoise blue. So I'm going to grab a little bit bigger round here. So the hat band, and I did not make my opening big enough right there. I can see right now for my buckle. So I'm just going to erase that. So I'll just paint it in as it's supposed to be. Alright, hat band, turquoise. I just grabbed a small round brush here. This is like a 3 round because I know I'm going to be doing some smaller areas. Could have used a little bit bigger brush there. And then inside here, it's going to be turquoise. So I like to make that a nice big area where you can see it. The collar is turquoise. The cuffs on her dress are turquoise. And I forgot to draw this cuff in over here, so I'll just paint it on. Her belt here is turquoise, and I missed a spot for the cape there. I'll have to fix that. And again, we want some turquoise here for the inside buckle. Her shoes are also going to be turquoise. Okay. Alright, she's looking so cute already. Let me touch up that purple right there before I forget. Okay, let's see, what's next? Alright, now we're undercoating the hair with a dark color. Her hair will be green, but we need a dark color underneath it. And so I chose to do it the same color that I'm painting several other items. So her hair, her dress, are just the hair and the dress. Well, these things back here too. Okay, we're going to go with a dark gray value here, and then we'll do a medium value gray on these things. So we're going to mix some black and white. And we're going to work out a dark gray value. That's kind of a medium gray. It's getting close to dark, but I'm going to add a little bit more black in there. That is not dark enough. That's more like a medium. You know what? I'm just going to take that medium and go ahead and paint in my medium gray values. So what is medium gray is the broom stand and the post. So we're going to go ahead and paint them in, then I'll add some more black to that and make a dark gray. So we're just going to go straight down these posts here. Straight across. Keep your line as straight as you can. My line is a little cattywampus, so I'll be erasing some of that. Some of this we won't see because, you know, once we put our brooms on here. Oh, that got way too fat. So let me take my damp brush and thin that. I don't want it to be that fat. Okay, then we got our, and I forgot to draw the lines that go across. So we need some lines that, oh, let me paint this one in first. Okay, so that's pretty much our frame support for that thing. Then we have a line that goes across here. I forgot to draw mine in, so I'm just going to paint it in. And then we have another one up here. And of these that separate. A little bit too much paint there. Here. And again, everything gets 2 coats, so don't forget the little feet that support it. We want to make sure we paint those in. And then this post here as well gets this medium gray value. I probably could darken this up just a little bit. It could be just a little bit darker, I think. Base. We'll fill that in. And then the sign, I believe the sign will be light gray. So we'd have to add a little bit more white here. It looks dark gray around the outside border. So let me grab some white. We're going to take some of this white and pull a little bit of this gray and mix and make a light gray out of it. And I think I'm going to have to get a bigger brush here. I believe I painted the whole thing in light gray and then I came back later and added the frame around it. So I'm going to do that same thing now because I think it will just be a lot easier if I do it that way. The inside of the window and the inside of the door will also get this light gray. So we're just going to go ahead, since we are painting with this color, to fill those in as well. So light gray, medium gray, this stuff will be dark gray. So we're just going to finish with our light gray color since we have it mixed. It's on our brush. This is the window. Make sure you transfer it on your lines pretty straight. Use a ruler if you need to use a ruler. And it's okay if you have, if your gray is not perfect all the way across. Let's say you go over and pick up a little bit of white and gray and it's a little bit slightly different. Don't worry about that. We'll have reflections on this, so it will definitely have some, see, like that's much lighter on that right there. I'm gonna mix a little bit more here because I still got to do the door. And then the inside of the door here, the glass on the door, will get this color. I'm just kind of brush mixing some more. If you want it all to be precisely the same color, then just mix a little bit up on your palette and go from there. But get enough off of that little bit that I have mixed to finish this out. And everything will need 2 coats. I just want to keep repeating that because I want to make sure that you remember that everything gets 2 coats. We want to make sure everything's nice and smooth, beautiful coats. Okay, so her hair and her dress, what else was there? Just the hair and the dress are a dark gray mix. So I'm going to go back to my other round brush and paint that in. My 3 round brush, we're going to add some black into this gray and make it a dark gray. We want it to be a dark gray. Okay, that's looking nice. That looks like a dark gray. So her dress, everything about her dress gets this dark gray. Add a little bit of water to your paint if you need to. Mine feels like it's a little bit thick, so I'm going to thin it down with some water. I prefer more thin coats going on than thick, and I got kind of out of line with her arm there, so I'm not going to make it that fat. That's a pretty fat arm. Here's where I didn't quite shape this side of her dress very good, so I will clean that line up and fill that in. Okay. Her hair is going to get this color because we need this dark color underneath. And so I'm not going to do the bangs until after I get the second coat of her flesh color on. I know it's a lot of base coating, but this is such a cute design, and I think we got to get some nice base coats on here so that we have a good foundation for what we're going to put on top. Lots of stuff going on with this little lady. Alright, let's see, what else do we got? Okay, we got the buckles. They're going to be golden straw. Take much of that. I'm going to go ahead and put out my marigold. It's going to be for the bottom of the broom. Since we won't be using a whole lot of paint here, these will probably paint in pretty quickly. Antique white is what we're painting the handle. And then olive green are the legs. So I'm just going to go ahead and put all those colors out because these areas are so small and it's going to go really quickly painting all of these in. Okay, golden straw, the buckles. Make your base coats nice and neat. It can be a square buckle, it can be rounded on the corners, whatever you like. I kind of rounded it on the first one. That one's a little more square. This one was pretty square when I painted it, so. Okay, the next thing is the broom, bottom of the broom. We're going to go with some marigold. And we're just going to paint some of this in right here. This is just undercoating stuff, just giving it a foundation. So don't let it grow great big. I mean, we can grow it out later, but when you start out, don't Don't get too carried away with how big this part of the broom is. Okay, the handle we're going to paint antique white. And I didn't draw my line very straight, so I'm going to try and straighten that up. This paint's kind of thick, so let me add some water to it. It does not want to flow. If your paint is not flowing, add a little bit of water. Okay, I'm just going to go down to the hand. And then we have her legs, which will be olive green. And I didn't make her legs the same width, so I'm going to try and adjust that as I paint that in here. Try and make them look like they're the same thickness. Okay. Oh, we can go ahead and do the cat too if you would like to. The cat is just going to be black. The cat doesn't get tons of detail. I'm not going to worry about the collar right now. Now this cat is actually shaped different and looks different than this cat on my painting. I will have both of these line drawings for each cat in my packet, so you can decide if you want this cat with the googly eyes. This cat I'm going to give eyes shaped like hers, so you can choose what you would like to have on yours. So it's just going to be painted in black. A real fast little base coat here. And you don't have to be too particular about, you know, the feet and all that stuff right now. We're going to add some detailed lines back in there later, and we may emphasize the feet, we may not. On my original one I did not. I just painted them in and didn't do anything more to them. So I didn't want the focus to be the cat. I wanted the focus to be the witch. So I didn't want to take away from the witch in any way. So there's two little feet in front here. So now I'm going to let all these base coats get good and dry. I'm going to erase my graphite lines, and then I'm going to apply my second coat on here and get it all nice and cleaned up and ready for us to paint. Oh, there is one more area, I'm not going to do it on camera, that you can paint black, and that's around the door. I'm just going to use my fatter brush, and I'm going to come in here and paint this. I'll just go do that off camera because it's just a basic black line. So I'm going to get my second coats on here and come back and show you what lines that I need you to transfer on so that we can get busy. Okay, I've got all my base coats on here are dry. I did go ahead and put in the handle here with that medium gray that we used down here, and then the collar on the cat is turquoise. So, and I've only got one coat on there. I've got to get another coat on. I went ahead and transferred on her face features, and that's all we've got transferred on right now that we need. We're going to work on the witch. She's going to take the longest amount of time to do. I do see something in the background that I'm going to want to adjust here pretty soon. We do need it darker and up a little bit higher on this back here, but we will work on that before we finish painting all this stuff in. So for the witch, I'm going to work on the hat and the cape here, and we're going to use this Punchinello, and I'm just going to lay it right over my surface here. It pretty much covers the whole thing. I'm going to tape it down so it doesn't move around for me. Okay, and then we're going to take our Fingertip Dauber. You should have Had it cleaned out from the last time that you used it. We've got it slightly damp again, and we're going to get some black, or not black plum, some plum, and we're going to tap some of that onto our Fingertip Dauber. And we're going to put dots on her hat. Now you should be able to see where the hat is very easily, so you don't go past. If you need to, you can put some tape along beside it. So I'm just going to go around and tap my circles. Go down here to this part. A little bit more paint here. And then when I lift up, I can see if I've got paint anywhere I don't want it, and grab a damp brush. I'll have to move it over to get the rest of the hat there. I'll put a second quick little layer up here. Okay, and we'll go down here to her cape and put some on the cape. And let's lift up and see how it looks. That looks pretty good. It needs to be a little bit darker on the cape down here. Okay, I'm going to move it over so I can get this little part of the hat that I didn't get. Just line it up with your other and tap that in there. So now I want to take a good look at it and see if I have some paint anywhere that I don't want it. I don't know how I got paint way down there, but I did. I got a little bit here along the outside edge. I'm going to grab my white eraser, and I dampened it with some water. Now I'll just erase that away. Got a little bit here. You can erase it because your paint has not cured, but you need a little bit of clean water in your brush. And then just use gentle pressure. You're just taking a very thin layer of paint off. And this is how we do that. And right here. Easy peasy. And then I can see I got some here. Now the background is just a solid color, so you can touch up on the background as well as just touching up on the hat and every place that you got some. I'm gonna take some of this off of her arm. I got some on her arm, so I want to remove that plum off of her arm right there. A little bit more right there. You have to be careful. You'll go all the way and take your black clear off of there. So you have to be careful when you're doing that you don't rub too hard and take off more paint than you intend to take off. So we're going to put this in our water basin or take it straight to our sink and clean it out. I'm going to drop it in my water basin. I'm going to go clean it here in a minute. But I think while I have this color out, I'm going to grab some Lilac Meadow. And we'll go ahead and paint her lips in. And her lips are a mix of Lilac Meadow and Plum. It's an equal mix, so I'm just going to dip into my Lilac Meadow and dip into my Plum and mix them together. Maybe just a bit more Plum. Just mix them together, makes this purpley pink color. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint her lips in. Now her lips are just shaped like a heart. Okay, now this is not in the instructions for the cat because I really didn't do anything for the cat but the cat's eyes. So I'm going to add a little bit more of that plum in there and give the cat a little nose. I might have to come back and add some black in here, but we're just going to give it a little cute little nose for now. Nothing, just tapped a little nose in there. We don't want a lot of detail on that cat, so don't get carried away with that. Alright, so now we can shade on those, the hat and the cape that we just put on there. We can shade on that. We're going to do that with our plum. I need to get a little bit more out. Okay, so you'll want to transfer on or just draw on these next lines. The hat up here, we've got some folds up here, and of course you're going to need your areas here that show the hat. And then down here on the cape, it's just got a couple of folds, so you can just draw some lines coming down the cape, and we'll shade next to those to kind of create a couple of little folds in the cape itself. So we'll be shading with plum. Okay, and we will shade underneath. Oops, my brush turned the wrong way. Take that off. Make sure I get my brush the right direction. We're going to put this plum color in here. Leave it lighter color out here towards the edge of the hat. So we're just tucking it in there. Okay, we're also going to go next to or underneath the hat band right here. Go around the buckle. Clean that buckle up a little bit. Might have to repaint that in. Okay, now we're going to go above the buckle. Got it on the buckle here. Clean that off and try that again. There we go, much better. Okay, we're also going to go next to these wrinkle areas here. We're going to go on the left or lower side of each one. here, right here, and then there's another one kind of right there. Got that one a little wide. And on the cape down here, we're going to put some on the left side of each one of these lines. We're also going to put it along this bottom edge. I'm tilted up a little bit there so that I can put some, oh, stay off of her hand, goodness gracious. Just going, flying right along there. This in here will be darker, so I'm just going to fill that in. We're going to go around the hand and the shirt here, all the way up to the collar. And all of that will get a float. We'll have to repeat that because it definitely needs to be much darker. All of them will need to be darker. And then we're going to go along this edge of the hat. Definitely need some more water in my brush here. Along that edge there. We will definitely be repeating that. I want it to dry, so while it is drying, I'm going to paint in some color in her eyes. So the whites of her eyes will be white. And it'll take 2 or 3 coats of this white to really get the opacity of it looking white. Okay, and her eye, her iris in her eye is a mix of turquoise and white, and just make this really soft blue color for her eyes. And you can be the judge of how soft of a blue that is. Pupil a little bit, not pupil, iris a little bit bigger. Okay, so we've got her eyes started there. So we've got first shading on, first layer on the eyes. I'm going to go ahead and put the second layer on the cat's collar while I have this color out. That's a very wide color. Let me make it less wide. I didn't want it to get that wide, but it did. So it's an easy fix. I'm just going to take some black and narrow that down a little bit and make this ear match a little bit better. There we go. A little, much narrower collar there. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and do a second coat on her lips. And then I'll go ahead and do the second coat on her eyes. Oops, got it on the eye. And I have her eyes bigger than my original one, so I am definitely going to enlarge her eyes. So let's see if I can do this. I've got my small round brush here. Got a spot on here I need to smooth out. Okay. Now you can make her eyes green if you want. I just preferred to have blue eyes on here. I think that they need to be a little bit lighter blue as well. Like a really pale blue. I'm going to repaint her hand in down here, but I'm going to wait till I get all this shading done. Okay, I switched over to a different brush here. So we're going to float in here again. I think this time I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of lamp black in there. Ooh, that's a lot. And just darken that plum up just a little bit. Yeah, I think that's going to give a much better shading. I believe my instructions say to do plum first and then the second one to do plum with a little bit of black, so a little bit of water here. And then we'll go around this. And bring this out here just a little bit. And follow the curve over here. Mix it a little bit more. I'm just brush mixing because we don't have to be super exact here. Go along this one. this goes up this outer edge. So we'll just go ahead and take it up this outer edge. Just brush mixing a little bit more. You have to float in smaller areas. The paint does not go very far in your brush, so you have to reload. Okay, and then down here on the cape, I'm going to go ahead and go along this bottom again. A little bit of water. Load a little more here. See if I got that dark enough. And then around the hand. And up to the collar. These are such fine, small areas here. We are definitely going to have to reapply our collar color. So let me touch, since I have some turquoise out here, I'm going to touch up. Okay, I'm going to let that get dry. I'm going to take my black. Now you can use an Identi-Pen here if you want. We're going to put her pupil in. Let's see if I can draw it in with a different color that I can maybe see. Try and look at my original and see how big I made it. And this one got a little bit big, so remove some. And then paint that black back in there. They look pretty close. The blue on this one is not the same. Comes down a little farther closer to the eye than this one does. So let's see if we can fix that. And it's too wide over here, so I'll have to take my white and touch that up. White. Still not looking quite the same. Okay, I think this pupil needs to be just a little bit of adjustment on there. I feel like I'm just going back and forth here with these two. I am kind of just going back and forth here because I keep getting my pupil too big on this side. It's the black that I really need that black to be round. So I'm going to go off camera and work on these round circles. Okay, I think I got her eyes good enough. While we have this turquoise out, I want to make the stripes on her legs here, which are going to be turquoise. She'll get 4 on that leg because we can see a little bit more of that leg than we can this one, and this one will just get 3. Okay. Clean up this shoe just a little bit. Oops. Alright, there are lots of tiny details on this project, so just hang in there. We will do them all justice. I think I'll put a little bit of green out and go ahead and paint in the cat's eyes so we can get some of these smaller things all painted in. And that's just with olive green. Paint a second coat on those once they dry. So I think we're ready to start adding some highlights onto the hat and the cape here. Okay, let's take our black and white, since we have it out, and we're going to make that a darker gray that we painted her hair in with. And we're just going to put a few little eyebrow things in here. This is just undercoating like the hair is, so don't get too stressed out about it. Just using a one round brush here. Erase this line here because it's kind of distracting me where my eyebrow needs to go. Okay, so it's just the under painting of her eyebrows, so I got a little bit too much right here. I want to keep her eyebrows a little bit more on the thin side. Okay, I think that's pretty good for the undercoat for her eyebrows. Let's begin our highlights on our cape and hat. So our first highlight on here is going to be with Lilac Meadow. So let me put some water out on my palette. I like to have water when I am floating. And we're going to side load with Lilac Meadow for our first highlight. Alright, so we're going to put this on the opposite side of our float here. A little bit, let me see if I can get up on the tip of my brush here and get a little bit right in there. And reload. I'll have some up here on the top. We'll have a little bit down this edge here. On the inside right here. Use your water brush and smooth these out so they don't leave any hard start and stop places. Right here. I'm just using an 8 chisel brush to do all of this. I want you to use whatever brush you like to use. We're going to kind of do a skimming across the upper brim here. And go across it. On the cape. This outer edge out here. Take the water edge and kind of smooth that out. We don't want a hard line in there. And then we'll go next to our areas that we shaded. Our little folds that are in it. I need a little bit more water. A little bit of that down. Okay, so that was our first highlight there. Lock this so it doesn't spin. And we're going to brighten the highlight now. I'm going to go down to a little bit smaller chisel brush here, because our second highlight we don't want to be as bright. We're just going to use just some Snow White for our final highlight. I'm going to make sure all of my graphite lines are erased so I don't get confused by any of those. So just straight Snow White. We'll load for a float, which is just the corner of the brush a little bit. We're just going to do little bits here. A little bit more water and paint both in my brush here. I'm staying up a little bit more on the chisel edge to get a little bit more of a sharp little highlight on there. And then down this outer edge, I'm up on the very toe of the brush where the white paint is. And I think I'm going to take a little bit of that down. It's a little bright right there. Just erase it back just a little bit. Just lighten that highlight. And maybe a little bit through here. I don't want it to be quite so wide, but I want to bring this one down just a tiny bit down here. And that's got a little bit of water in it, so it should fade back to a very nice soft highlight there. I'm going to grab my plum because I feel like up there needs to be darkened a little bit with our darker shading, which was plum and lamp black mixed together. So I'm going to get a little bit of both of those out and just darken just a tiny bit. Right here, I feel like it needs to be a little bit darker. Clean up a little bit here. Some places that it's not quite smoothed out enough for me. Bring this around this edge a little bit. And I really feel like too much black. I really feel like in here it needs to come out a little more. A little bit more shadowy. And that's looking much better. Tuck some into that corner right there. Remember, when you have a little triangle here, you kind of push the paint in and then you round out as you come by scooping and working it out. And I think I'll put a little bit down here on this lower edge right here. Just a little bit. Okay, I think that makes that look a little bit better. We'll clean up along this front edge when we do the hair, so I'm not too worried about that right now. So I think the hat and the cape are done. Well, not the full hat, but the purple part of the hat and cape. So we're going to move on to all of the blue areas and the buckle. So we're going to work on all of the turquoise and then the buckles all at the same time. Okay, let's work on our buckles here. Not buckles, our bands, all of our blue areas. We're going to work on all of our blue areas at the same time. Okay, so the hat band, all of the blue areas are going to be shaded with ultramarine blue. So you'll want to use a small, if you're using an angle brush, use a small angle brush. And but use whatever brush works best for you. We're going to shade with ultramarine blue. We'll go along the outside edges. Make that just a little bit. Ultramarine blue is a pretty transparent color. Okay, I'm just going to have to remove that because it's got too hard of a line on there. I don't like it. So I'm going to take it off. Dampen it. Eraser. Just remove that layer of ultramarine blue. And paper towel. Okay, well, let me try that again. It's ultramarine blue is very transparent, but it's also, any bottle I've ever had has been a thinner paint than a lot of the other paints. I'm not really sure why. Okay, that doesn't look too bad there for a first go at it. Okay, I'm going to flip it around and do this other side. I don't want it to fill this space because we've got a shade next to the buckle as well. So we want to make sure we have room for that shade without filling the whole thing. Now the inside of here will be a little bit trickier. Try to stay up on the edge of your brush, the tip of your brush, and we'll go down one side. And then if you can, without getting into your other float, we'll go down the other side. And then we'll let that dry, and we'll come back and do along the top and the bottom. We'll put a bright little highlight in there in a little bit. Okay, the collar is just going to have a float back here. Like it's the inside edge of the collar, so it's just right next to her neck. And coming down a little bit. And then her belt will be the same as the hat band up there. We'll go along the outer edge. We'll make these narrower floats because we have to go next to the buckle as well. Her cuffs on her dress, we're going to go along the part of the cuff that's closest to her dress and then along the wrist. So it's like a little backwards L there. And then this one will be on the side, the top side, and next to her hand. Won't be a whole lot of highlight on that one. Inside the buckle here, I'm just going to stay up on the very corner of the brush and just line that inside that buckle. Okay, now her shoes down here, we're going to float along the top. I'm loading more in my brush here, working it in so it will hopefully be a soft float. We're going to go along the back here and down to the heel. Try not to fill the whole shoe in here. I know it's going to be hard. And we're going to go along the bottom. Bottom of the shoe. And then right here on the inside of the heel, we want to put a pretty good line of this. Now you can go to a small round brush, which is what I may have to do here because I'm making a mess of it. So I think I will do that. Grab a small round and then just make a line of this ultramarine blue right inside the heel right here. Okay. We're going to come back and deepen all of this, so we still got to finish out the shading up here on our hat, our first go of shading. We can do the little cat's collar, a little bit on each outside edge. Let's go up and finish the first float on the hat band, and we're going to go next to the buckle. I have to be careful not to completely fill that blue area, although on my original one it looks like I got pretty close to filling it. And then above and below here, inside the buckle. Okay, now that is our first float with the ultramarine blue. Now as we come back and do our second float, we're going to add a little bit of lamp black in there. Now we also have these places on her legs. And I think I shaded those with green, not with blue. So we're going to get some lamp black out now, and we're going to mix a little bit of that lamp black in with our ultramarine blue and darken that blue up really dark. Remember, black can take over very quickly, so just use a small amount. And we'll go along this outside edge. Do this outside edge. Do inside the buckle here. I'm staying up on the toe just a little bit so it won't make it real wide. Alright, I'm going to mix a little bit more here. And then we'll do the collar. Outside edge. Oh, I didn't do the next to the buckle on the belt, so I'll have to come back and do that one with just the ultramarine blue. So now we're doing the shoe. I know these are small areas to float, so you want to use a smaller brush, kind of stay up on the corner because that's really going to help. Okay, let me see if I can grab just some ultramarine blue here and go ahead and get the first float on here. Belt. Alright, then I'm going to come up here to the, oops, paint on the wrong side of my brush there. I'm going to come up to the hat band and do next to the buckle. I'm mixing a little bit more paint. Remember, you're just mixing a dark blue here. Don't make it black. And the top and bottom here. Oops. And stay off of my gold buckle there. And don't forget the little cat's collar. Okay. So that was our second shading, and then we're going to highlight with a mix of Snow White and turquoise. We're going to use 2 Snow White to 1 turquoise. So we'll dip, I'll show you how I do that. I dip into my turquoise and bring it down here. And I dip into my turquoise again. I don't think I got any paint that time. And then I dip into my Snow White. And I don't think I got much white there. So we're going to start out with just a, oh wait, it was supposed to be 2 Snow White. I did it wrong. I did it wrong. So we're going to do 2 Snow White, 1, 2, and 1 turquoise. There we go, much lighter color. Although I think that's really too light. I must not have had enough. Must not dipped enough into blue. Now this is just going to be a streaky little highlight right through here. And I already got too wide. I want to stay up on the tip as much as possible and create just this kind of rough little highlight through here. I need to grab some water. So I'm just going to kind of skim a highlight through there. And then through here. And then on the collar, it will be on this outside edge here. I made a mix of a color that's very close to her eye color, just a little bit darker. Okay, and then her cuff will be on the top edge and out on the outer edge a little bit, down the center of her belt. Almost like dry brushing here. You won't really see too much of that highlight in the. And then here on the shoes, we're going to go just along the top. Is the only place. The front and the top of the shoe. That's the only place we need the highlight there. If I have enough paint in my brush here. And then just a little bit in the center of the collar. Right there, just for a little highlight. And then we'll come back and brighten that with a little bit of white. Just straight white. So just a little streaking of white. little bit of white through there on her shoes. Now, we can go ahead and finish off her shoes if you would like to. So grab a detail liner, since we have black out on our palette. And we're just going to take our black with our detail liner, use a very small detail liner here, and we're just going to put some dots down the front of her shoe. Try and keep them evenly spaced. And then we're going to just make a little loopy bow. So you might want to get a little bit of thinned paint here, add some water, make it equal consistency. And we're just going to make a loop, and some strings. Okay. A little bit of water, a loop, and some strings. That's for her shoe. I'm going to take a little bit of this black and put it inside the heel. Give a little bit more of a shadowy look in there. And that really finishes off her shoes right there. They're done. The hat and the cape is done, and all of the blue areas should be done as well. The cat here, you can put just a little dot in there. And then the collar thing here on the cat, I just outlined it with some thin turquoise. I guess this would be the tag on the cat. I'm going to grab a little bit of ultramarine and put just a tiny bit of that on there because I don't want it to be quite so bright. And then a little tiny bit of white and black so that it's not quite so bright for connecting it. I just want white there. I didn't want my gray to come up in there. Okay, and then you can put just a little dot of a highlight or something on that tag, or just leave it, whatever appeals to you. But I mostly just use the turquoise blue around that tag. So that's the cat's little tag there. So as you have colors out, you can move around your design and finish areas that are available to finish. Since I have black out, I'm going to go ahead and put the whiskers on the cat. So you definitely want to thin this down with some water for inky consistency. I have black and I have my liner out already using it. So I think I'm going to give his whiskers some fun detail. And just give him 3 wiggly whiskers. And you won't see them on his skin unless you come back and highlight the whiskers, which I can just get a little tiny bit of white. I don't want the cat to be super noticeable, so the whisker part, doesn't have to be stand out bright. Just give a little hint of them coming off of the face there. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good for now. I'm going to mix a little bit of the plum and the white. I'm not sure this is the color I want to use, but I want to brighten up his nose just a tiny bit. Okay, that's good. Don't need any more detail than that on his nose. I want to keep him a pretty black cat where you don't see any other colors on him, but I do need to touch up his tail. Tip of his tail is all weird. Okay, that looks better. So we just have to finish the cat's eyes out. So see, as you have colors out on your palette, you can move around your design a little bit. So we're going to work on the buckles next and get those done. Okay, we are going to shade with burnt umber on our buckles here. And burnt umber is another one of those colors that's kind of transparent. So we can lay in a nice sheer layer of this for the first time. Going along the outside edge of the buckle. I will definitely repeat that because I want it to be darker. And then when we get down here to this little buckle, we're going to stay up on the edge and just go around it. It's going to be hard not to fill that one in, so do your best. And then we'll stay up on the tip. We'll just go around one time around the center, I think. Because we want to put a highlight in there. But we want the buckle to look a little bit dimensional. So let me go around the outside edge of this one more time. And you can use some metallics on this if you want to. Some glitter paints and sparkle it up. I'm going to line around the center here. Just staying up on the tip of my brush. So yeah, that one is going to be super hard to not fill in, but we'll get our highlight in there. Won't be a problem. Just going to round these corners a little bit. Okay, so now we're just going to add a highlight in there. And it's going to be a mix of golden straw and white. We're going to do 3 golden straw, 1 white, and I'm just going to use my brown brush to do that. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, and mix those together. And then I'm just going to streak this through the center of our buckle down here. It's going to be hard not to fill it, so do your best. A small detail liner would probably work best than this round that I'm using. I'm going to wash my brush out and get all of the moisture out of it, and then just grab some white and put a little bit of white in there. I'm going to put a little bit of white in a couple of these places as well. Just a little bit of white. And touch up any places that you feel like needs to have a little touch up on it. And I think that's going to take care of the buckles and everything on there. Okay, we're going to put a first layer on her hair, and then we're going to work on her face. So the first layer we want to put on is just some olive green with a round brush. I thinned it down. You can use a detail liner as well. And we're just going to start like stroking in some hair. I'm not going to bring it too much on her face because I don't want it to be on her face yet, because we have all the detail to do on her face. So you don't want to cover up all that black that's under there, but you want to start getting a layer of hair in here. And we'll put a little bit along here as well. And thin your paint to inky consistency so it will flow off of your brush nicely. Get this nice flow. And just a smooth little layer in here. Do not let it get thick and globby. Just a quick little layer on the hair. Okay, let's work on the face a little bit. We've already done the eyes, mostly. I mean, we've just got the base color of our eyes in. So now we want to, believe it or not, on the blue part of the eye, we want to try and shade that. So you can dampen the eye and then just use a small round and line it. But I'm going to use my small chisel, which is a size 6. I probably have a 4 somewhere. And then on the eyes, we are going to put this color down along just the bottom edge of that blue. Starting in the corner of the eye and coming down just a little over halfway around the bottom. I want that to be just a tiny bit darker. I'm really up on the edge of the brush here. The very tippy toe of the brush. So I already see I'm going to have to clean up my white just a little bit, and that's okay. We're going to do that here in a minute. Clean up all that white area. Okay, so the next step for the eye is we're going to float along the inside edge right here. Okay, so we're going to mix some white and a tiny little bit of black. Get this soft gray color. A little bit more white. Don't let the black take over. This is just going to be a very soft gray, maybe just a shade darker. I really want to work it into my brush so it softens into my brush and I don't get a ton of paint coming out. So I'm going to, after I get it mixed, I'm going to go ahead and wash my brush out and get the excess moisture out, because I just want this paint on the edge of my brush. So I'm just loading that corner. And then we're going to paint this across the top of the eye here. I'm going to come back in and stroke that pupil back in. And then we'll take our white real quick and just tap, 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 tap up into that gray just a little bit. We don't want to cover up that gray. We just want to tap a little bit up in there, kind of break up the gray just slightly. And then we can touch up our pupil here where the gray is. good. And right now you can still touch up on the skin of the eye, so. Okay, we're going to use an Identi-Pen to do the remainder of her eyes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a highlight in her eyes, in the blue part. Okay. Alright, so let's move on to something else and leave the eyes for now. For the eyebrows, let's go ahead and stroke in while we have this olive green out. Just a few little olive green eyebrow hairs here. Okay. We'll leave that right there for now. And let's see. Let's work on the lips. We've got them on, so we're going to shade the center line. So I'm going to draw my center line, which is going to come down like this. Okay. You can come down even farther, you know, if you want it to. It can come down like this and curve up. So it's really, you know, take the pattern and use the pattern if you want to. I think on my original one I tried to put it in the center. So I'm just going to do it across the center. Center of the lips there. Okay, so we're going to shade at the center line of the lips all the way across and on the outside edges of the lips as well with plum. Okay, so I'm going to take my smaller chisel brush and grab some plum here. We're going to shade right at the center line here. A little bit more paint in my brush here. We're going to shade at the center line. Okay. And we'll do above and below it. We don't really want to see that line, so I'm going to bring a little bit down on it. I won't be able to erase it there, but that's okay. A little bit darker right there in the center. And then the outside edges. Which is out here. Side. Okay. Looks like I brought it up a little bit. Up here. Okay, so that is the shading part of it. And then let's see. We can darken that shading by adding a little bit of black to our plum. just darken it. I mean, very sparingly use this black, because then your lips will just turn out a really black color, unless you want that color. And I'm just going to go along the bottom center right here with this color. Okay, and then our highlight, we're going to mix Lilac Meadow and Snow White. And I would say do an equal mix, or maybe two Lilac Meadow to 1 Snow White. And we're going to put a highlight right in here. And one down here on the lower part of the lip. And we can put a tiny bit up here on the upper part. Just for some shine. And then we can just intensify that with just a little bit of just straight white. Right there. Right there. A little bit here. And we'll finish this out with the Identi-Pen when we get to the Identi-Pen at the end here. So that's going to finish out her mouth. Okay, any place you need to touch up on the face, like around the eyes or the lips where you maybe got out of line, now would be a good time to touch those up with your base coat color of the Natural Buff. And just clean up any places you need to. We're going to go ahead and put a little highlight in her eye. Like I said, we'll finish it out with the Identi-Pen at the end. But I want a little dot of a highlight. And now this next step on her eye, before we go on to the face here, is optional. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of ultramarine blue on my detail liner. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to, but I'm just going to put some little lines in the eyes. See, I just put a few little lines in there. Okay. Alright, let's work on the shading on her face. Now, the first thing I want to do before I begin, my lines for her nose are really dark, and I don't want them to be dark. I want them to be where I can just barely see them. I want to know where I'm going with the nose, but I don't want to have to try and cover up those lines. So I'm just going to lightly erase it back. I want you to erase yours back where you can just see it. And we're going to start shading on her face. So we're going to use Vintage Pink to shade on her face with. Grab my small chisel brush, and let's see where we're going to shade at. Okay, we're going to side load for a float with our Vintage Pink. Work it into your brush so it's a nice soft color. Let's see, one of the first places we want to go is up above the eye to create a crease above the eye. So we're just going to paint a little line above the eye here, just to create that little crease. Now work it into your brush for a nice soft float. We're going to go next to the nose here. We want this really, really light. So if it starts coming off dark, take the water edge of your brush and soften it back and tap it with your finger. Keep it a light color, not super dark. I'm going to go the nostrils. We need to create the nostrils. Take the water edge of your brush and really work that back so that you can keep that nice and soft. Every time you pick up paint, really work it in with a little bit of water on your brush to keep it a nice soft color. We want a little bit, I'm going to go a little bit on each side of the nose right here. You don't want that too dark. So I'm really going to touch it back. If you end up getting something way too dark, just take your flesh color and blend it out with that flesh color, the natural buff. A little bit around the mouth. And then I'm going to create a little bit of a chin by making a little indent here. And that is way too dark, so it's not even centered underneath her mouth. I'm going to take some water and work that out a little bit. And just make it a really soft line there. Okay, we're going to go on the neck here. Underneath the chin. And we'll go inside the shirt here. We'll just go on this one side here. I think that will be enough. On the hand, we're going to go next to the cuff. Remember, you're working this into your brush. If it just keeps staying too dark, mix some of your natural buff in with it. And then the hand on each side. Okay, we're going to do, let's see, I didn't do it under her eyebrows. I did a little bit up underneath here. So we'll go up under here just a little bit. And I think that's all I did right there. I'm going to try and erase my nose lines back more. Let's see where we want to highlight on our nose a little bit. Okay, so I also took this color to dry brush on her cheeks. So we're going to do that. Grab a small little dry brush of some kind. We're going to use a dry brush. Use some kind of little soft scrubby brush, or it can be stiff as well. So we're going to need a dry paper towel. And some of our vintage pink. So I'm going to load some on my brush and remove it onto this dry paper towel. I'm going to do that twice so I can get paint up in the bristles and then remove all of the excess. We just want a little bit on the brush to very gently rub on her cheeks. Now, when you do this, I want you to start with a super soft pressure and a circular motion in the area that you want to be this color. Okay? Try not to get it into her eyes, and just very gently rub in a layer on her cheeks. I'm going to put a layer over here, just on her cheeks. I'm going to add a little bit more to this side because I want it to be just a touch darker. I don't want her cheeks to be super bright, but I want her to have some color in her cheeks. So don't get carried away with that color, okay? Let's add a few highlights on her face now. We're just going to use Snow White. Let's see. Oh, let me go to my smaller brush here. Just straight Snow White. Okay, we're going to put a little bit down the center of our nose. And I'm not getting any paint to come off of my brush here. A little bit down the center of her nose for a highlight. We're going to put a little bit on the end of her nose and her nostrils so we can kind of see the shape of her nose a little bit. Right here, we're going to put some. I'm going to have to shade back underneath her nose. We're going to go along the lower, or along the chin. And put a little bit of a highlight on the chin. And a little bit on the neck. And the hand. And you can come back and repeat any of this that you need to. That's all the places that I highlighted. So I'm going to come back and repeat. And I'm definitely going to have to do some repeat on the shading there. Doing on her hand. Just a second little highlight on there. Okay. I think up above here I floated a little bit of a shading above that crease in her eye up here. So I'm going to put a little bit of that. I'm also going to put just a touch right next to the eye. And maybe a little bit right underneath the eye, just a tiny bit, and I definitely want to go around. The shape of the nose just a little bit. You can shape her nose any way that you want to shape it. If it gets out of shape, like I feel over here as I zoom in on it, it got just a little bit out of shape. I'm going to take my base color and I'm going to reshape right there. Kind of straighten that out just a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of white with my okay. Now let's add some little freckles on her face. We're going to use that same color, that vintage pink, and add some little freckles. Little tiny, make them teeny tiny. Don't let them get great big. Teeny tiny, tiny, tiny. I feel like those first ones I put on there are ginormous, so I'm just going to try and remove them without removing the dry brush color I put on. Then we'll just go with some teeny tiny little dots. Teeny, teeny, tiny. And put a couple on her nose. Make those super tiny. We don't want them to look like warts. And continue over on this side with some tiny, tiny, tiny little freckles. Fresh paint is your key here. A detail liner would probably work much better than this round that I'm using. Something with a super fine tip that has just a couple of hairs on it. So we'll just give her a few freckles on her face and make her look super cute. Once we get her eyelashes and all that stuff in there, she is really gonna come together. So let's wide angle out so we can see her a little bit. She's looking really cute. We're gonna do some more layers on her hair and work on finishing up her hair now. And then I may go ahead and do the detail on her face so that you can see that. We still have to finish up her dress and her legs to get her completely done. So she has a lot of steps going on in her, so just be patient and take your time. Remember to add a little bit of water in your paint. Okay, let me see if this is lighter. Yep. Too much water in it though. There we go. Wasn't wanting to flow off of my brush, and I added a little bit more olive green back in there. Maybe I have to add a few dark strokes back in that side. I'm going to make sure I make the length on both sides the same. She's looking pretty cute. Add a little bit of white strokes in here, and I think I'm going to have to come back with just straight olive here in a second. I'm going to put just a few of these strokes in her eyebrow. I'll probably come back with some darker strokes in her eyebrow because I think it needs it. So I'm going to go into a little bit of olive green and Hauser dark green here. Need to really thin that down. And put just a few of these strokes in here. I don't think in my instructions it says to use the Hauser dark green in the hair. It says to go back with the black that we used underneath, but I think the Hauser dark green is going to blend it out a little bit better. I want some just straight white ones on here. Stay up on the tip of your brush. That's so important to get these fine details and have your paint inky consistency so it flows, it will just flow right off of your brush when you do that. Okay, I'm going to come back with just some olive green ones, and then I think, like I said, you can play around with her hair as much as you want, but I want that little bit more pop of olive green color. That got really thick right there, so I'm going to have to go over that. Okay, that looks much better. So I really like her hair there. I'm going to clean up the edge of her face here. I feel like there's something dark going on right there. I need to shade her hair now up underneath here, and let's see. What did I do? Hair. There we go. Couldn't find my hair. It says I use soft black or a float of lamp black under there. So we want to keep that pretty sheer. And I'm not going to just put it in her hair. I'm going to take it out into the hat a little bit. Now to get it sheer, you got to really work it into your brush and really soften it with some water. Work it till it's nice and soft. Make sure there's no paint on this edge, the water edge. And then we'll just put this soft little float right underneath the hat rim along her hair. And really push that back underneath the hair. I think I need just a couple more little hairs on here, and I'm going to use my detail liner. Thin out some paint here. I want a few. Okay, I feel like I need to put some dark ones back in her hair, or her eyebrows. That looks better. I like that. Okay, so we just have her dress to finish and her legs. Oh, while I have the Hauser dark green, I'll go ahead and finish her legs out. This is going to be a very extremely sheer float, so if you don't feel like you can do it, go ahead and just dampen her legs and line with the Hauser dark green. I'm up on the I did side load just barely for a float. I mean for the softest of floats. And we'll go down each side of her leg here. You don't want to fill up her legs, so that's why I'm up on the chisel edge here and just doing the softest of floats. We will also go under the dress and above the shoes. Darken it just a tiny bit. We're going to highlight down the center with some white here in a second. I just want to repeat this real quick. Very soft float. And then just down the center with a little streak of white. And that will finish off her legs right there. Now, on my original one, I used an orange on there. Orange Flame, I think, which is in my list. So you could do orange on her stockings, but she didn't have orange anywhere else on her. So I decided painting this one I would use turquoise, but you definitely have the option of using the Orange Flame on there. I think the only other place I use it is over here. So, you know, and we could make a rust color out of our reds and stuff that we have, plum colors that we have. So you don't necessarily need the Orange Flame if you don't want to pull it out and use it. Since we have the Hauser dark green out, let's finish off the cat's eyes. And I'm just going to shade, let's see, I think I'll shade along the top of the eyes with a little bit of Hauser dark green. And then we'll take black and we'll create a little bit of a cat eye here. And so that's going to pretty much finish off our cat. I'm not giving the cat a lot more detail than that. I think it looks perfectly fine just like that. So let's finish out her dress because it's just going to require a little bit of detail, and then we'll do the Identipen on her face. Okay, on her dress, black is the color we're going to shade with. Lamp black. And we are going to go along the left side of her dress here. Walk it out just a little bit into the dress and very gently mop that. And then we'll repeat here in a little bit, but I want to go above it. Just to there. I'm going to walk it over a little bit. Try to smooth that out with my finger. We'll go under the collar. Here. We'll go down the bottom part of the arm that holds the broom next to her cuff. We'll go next to her cuff here, and then along the inside. We'll go under and above the belt. And it looks like I did a little bit along the bottom of the dress. Definitely need water. Okay, we'll have to definitely come back and repeat all that. I'm going to give it a second to dry. I'm going to put a little bit on her arm right there. So I think we're pretty dry, so I'm going to go ahead and start applying the second coats of just straight black. Work a little bit more in my brush here. Go along the bottom. Above and below the belt. By the collar. Cuff on the sleeve. And then along this sleeve. That's our black. I'm going to walk the black over just a little bit more down here. And up here. And on my mop brush. Okay, that looks so much better. Now for the highlight, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to take the black that's in my brush and grab a little bit of white and make a gray mix. Let's see, I say to make a light gray mix. Let's see if this is light enough, and then we're going to highlight on this side. And walk that over just a little bit. I'm going to get rid of this hard line up here. And then we'll do a little bit here on the upper edge of the sleeve. And then we want to brighten with just some white. Wash all that gray out of my brush there. It's like taking over. And then just a little bit of a light touch of white. A little bit of a highlight on her dress. And that's going to finish out the dress. Not a whole lot to it because we painted it in with a dark gray and I wanted it to look black, so we are just going to keep it those darker colors. Alright. Okay, I did one eye so you could see kind of where we're going with it. Okay, and I am using an Identi pen. Not an Identi pen, a Micron pen. I'll use an Identipen in some of the other areas, but it was going to be too fat for this. So we're just going to outline the eye here, outline the iris very gently. And then this line above the eye can be really dark, and then right here can be really dark. And then we're just going to start creating some eyelashes. I have to keep cleaning the tip off. It keeps picking up paint, although it shouldn't because the paint is dry. And then we're just going to give her some eyelashes and some little ones on the lower part of her eye. And that pretty much is going to finish out her eye. You can realign the pupil if you feel like it needs it. But it's just a simple outlining and creating eyelashes. You just want to make sure the upper line above the eye is a thick line. I've got paint in it again. Okay, so that finishes out her eyes. Let me wide angle out so you can kind of see her face now. Now we need to finish out her mouth as well. And let me zoom you back in here. I just did a line across her mouth, and then I brought it out here, and I brought it out here, and then I made a little line right there in the center of her lip to kind of give it a little bit of a pouty full lip. And that's how I finished out her mouth. Very simple, easy peasy. And that again was with a Micron 005 pen. You could probably use an 01 if you feel like that is too fat of a line for you. Yeah, an 01, it's a little bit smaller of a tip. But I have to keep cleaning. It seems to pick up the paint for some reason in the tip, so when it won't write very smooth, just go scrub it. I just swirl it on a piece of scrap paper and get the paint off the tip, and then it will write again just fine for me. So our witch is completed. The cat is done. We'll just go right ahead and finish her broom. So this whole area of the painting will be completely done. And then we'll work on everything else over here. Okay, let's finish out the broom. And the first thing we want to do is bring the handle up in front of her hair. So I'm going to take our color that we basted in with and extend her broom handle up in front of her hair. And this is with our base color. Oh, actually it was supposed to be antique white, so I just painted it in with the wrong color. There you go. I'm like, that color doesn't look right. So let me get some antique white out of my bottle. Goodness, it didn't want to come out. And I'll paint over that with my antique white. Don't want my broom handle to look yellow. Okay, that's better. Alright, so for the broom handle, I'm going to have to let that dry now. So I'm going to do just a quick little layer down here and then go back to the broom handle. So on the straw here, this is marigold that we started out with. So then we want to go with some golden straw, and we're going to put some coming up like this. Zoom in a little bit. Thin your paint down with a little bit of water. That's going to help it flow. You can use a round brush or a detail liner, whatever you prefer. So we're just going to streak some of this coming down this way. We're going to make a little rough looking broom. Some will come up this way, and then we'll have some that come around this way. This is what ties the broom up right there. So that's our first layer is golden straw on top of that marigold. And this is dry up here, so I want a shade on that. So with burnt umber, again, you can just dampen the handle and just take a round brush and line along each side, whatever works best for you. I'm going to go along each side here, staying up on the edge of the brush. I want to bring it out just a scooch, so I'm going to get a little bit more and widen that float. Turn it around and go up the other side of it. And a little bit right here where it kind of goes down behind the straw. I can kind of just wiggle it down in there and make it look like it's going behind. We'll go around her hand. A little bit around her hand here. A little bit through there. Reshape her hand here. I don't like that shape. Okay, and then I'm just going to go up on the very tip of the brush and just create some like lines in it. And again, do this with a detail liner. Just create the look of some wood there. Okay, and then we can just do some white. We can mix a little antique white in with it just to keep it from being quite so stark, and then just put some, just tap some little highlight on the broom handle. Okay. I'm going to touch her hand up there, I think. Man, some of this paint is so thick it won't come out of my bottles. Just touch the shape of her hand up right there, so it looks like her hand is definitely over the broom handle. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the broom handle. You know, if you need to add an extra little highlight on here, you could add a little bit of touches of some white, but we don't need a ton on the broom there. So let's go finish out the bottom of the broom. So we're going to take some burnt umber, and you're just going to go back and forth with your colors until you are happy with how your broom works. Oops, that's a really thick one. So just okay, that was burnt umber. I'm going to go back into my golden straw, but I'm going to add a little bit of maybe some antique. No, let's add some white to it. Some golden straw and white, get a little bit lighter color going on here. To thin that down just a little bit. that one. There we go. Better. And back to a little bit of burnt umber. And then a little bit of our marigold. And just kind of go back and forth until you get your broom looking the way that you like it. A little bit of white in there. I'm just barely letting the tip of the brush kind of come off on the surface here. And I'll do a little bit more yellow in here. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So now we just need to shade it with some burnt umber. We're going to shade it here. And it's pretty dark, so I'm going to tap it with my finger, kind of take that back. That's that banding that's tying it up. So we're going to go above and below that banding. Okay. And then we want to put a little bit on the outside edge of it. And we can bring just a little bit of this down into the broom to create some kind of shadowy stuff going on in the broom. And then we'll highlight with some white. I'll go right here in the center of that, a little bit up here. And then a few little white, a few more little white streaks down in here. And I think that will finish up the broom. So we'll wide angle out. So the witch and the broom and the cat are all done. The only thing that I'm not 100% happy about are her legs. I feel like the blue has faded away, so when you paint those in, I'm going to change it on my instructions to mix the blue and the white together, probably 2 blues to 1 white, so we can have those a little bit of a brighter blue. Not that bright, maybe 3 turquoise to 1 white. So that was the only thing I didn't really care for. I couldn't really see that blue on her legs. So we're going to brighten that blue up just by adding a little bit of white to it so we can see that a little bit better on her stockings. And I think she is going to be a done lady. So let's get ready to move over. We're going to do the bike rack and the sign, and then we'll do the door and the window, and we'll add the brooms in and all the leaves down in here and do them. Okay, we're going to move over to the bicycle rack and the sign, and we're going to work on the details on those. So the bicycle rack, pretty basic stuff here. We are going to shade with black. So you want to get a nice soft float, blend a little water into your brush, make sure it is a soft color, and don't let it get too far over on your brush. We want to keep this pretty narrow, and we're going to shade next to this pole here. Actually, this one I did all the way down here. Okay, we're going to do it on both sides of our crossbars. So this is with black. Some of this we won't end up seeing at all once we put our broom in there, but we need all of our details in here because if anything is seen at all. We want to make sure it looks like it should look. To load more frequently with a small brush. Next to this pole as well. Okay, on the bottom, have the support bars or whatever bars those are on the top. A little bit more water. It's starting to look a little more dimensional. We are also going to go, oh, way too much paint on my brush here. We're going to go along the left edge of all of the outside framework. Well, the two outside, the ones that go up and down. We'll go on the left side. Okay, I'm going to kind of move around so I give my floats plenty of time to dry. Our little foot, we need to shade on it in a couple places, but we'll do this place here first where it connects to our stand itself. Okay. Let's see. I did a little bit on the left side of these rack bars or whatever they are. Just a little bit. Maybe just a scooch more so we can see it. Okay. On the top and bottom bar, did along the lower edge. On that one, and can't really tell on this one because my brooms are in front of it, but we'll go along the lower edge a little bit on this one. We'll end up not seeing a lot of that, so and we'll go on the right side here. I think I did it on the opposite side on the original one. Either side. And then I need to just darken on this float here and on this float. Okay, so that's all of our shading. You can go back and darken and deepen anything that you want. If you feel like these places here need to be darker, then you can certainly go in and do a quick little refloat right there. Our brooms are going in here, so we won't see a lot of this down here. We will see all of this up here. Okay, so now I need to shade one more place here. Inside here. Make these corners a little bit more detailed. Okay, so now we will highlight with just white. So we'll just streak a little white on here, and we'll probably come back and repeat it. White will fade back in there pretty quickly. So I'm going across these, or down these rack separation bars. I don't know what to call them. Okay, we'll do our outside bars. We'll do our upper and lower bar. Remember, you're going on the opposite edge that you shaded, so it should make it pretty easy. Black and white is all we're using here on this one. I did not put any across here, but I think I will just add just a touch of a highlight on these support bars coming across, and then we want to repeat just a little bit. Just give it a little touch of a brighter highlight on here. Like again, a lot of this bottom one you won't see, and then don't forget your little foot down here. It needs a highlight on it as well. Okay, so that's all we have to do to the rack. The rack is pretty basic. I didn't do tons of detail on it because our brooms are going to be in front of it, and so we won't see, you know, it'll kind of push back once we put our brooms on there. Okay, on my sign, first thing I'm going to do is draw my, or transfer the pattern, whatever works for you, and we don't have to have this sign be perfect. I do want to try and keep it a little bit straight here so I know what I'm doing. Okay, so we've just got our center area. So now we're going to make some rusty areas on our sign. So the colors that I used are lamp black, burnt umber, snow white, orange flame, turquoise blue, and plum. Okay, those are the ones that we use. I am going to go ahead and kind of detail my broom. I have a little broom that I painted on here, and I want to put that on and kind of know where it is going. So let's get our paint colors out. Okay, we're going to make some rusty colors on here. So this is where you just want to have fun mixing some colors. So first I want to take some of this orange and mix a little bit of burnt umber with it and really get this dirty orangey color. This makes a nice rusty color, and we are not using a lot of paint here. And we're just going to wiggle and jiggle and work some rusty stuff into this sign. Put a little bit of water on my brush so I can let it fade out a little bit more. And you just pick and choose where you want your sign to be rusty. I definitely want this bottom edge to be a little bit rusty. I'm going to grab a little bit more burnt umber and kind of darken some of that. More water because I want it to be soft and fade out and just almost not be there. Okay, I'm just going to dirty brush into just a little bit of lamp black, mix it and give some little darker rusty areas. Again, you need water on your brush. Just mix and don't think too much about it. The more you think about it, the harder it becomes. Okay, and then I want to put a little bit of maybe some turquoise and plum mix. Let's see how that works out together. Can give like this dirty blue plum color. Can be a nice I'm going to get water on my brush. I want this to be a really washy color. And I'm sure my colors won't be exact as they were on my other one because, you know, you paint different every time that you paint, so. And then we can go with just a dark gray on here. Again, we don't want to fill this sign up. We got stuff to add to it, words to add to it, but we want it to look a little bit worn and rusty. So that's a good take right there. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more up in this corner here. I want it to be just a little bit darker in these places. Okay, so while we have our colors out for doing our broom over here, we're going to go ahead and paint this broom in real quick. So we started out with marigold down here. And we started out with the handle being antique white. Way too much water in my brush here. Okay, and then you can just add some of your other colors in here. A little detail liner would work great for this. I'm just going to streak some stuff down the handle because there's no way you're going to be able to add details. So don't even try to add a bunch of details in here because it's not going to work. And I want to get some of my golden straw in here. We just want to give the illusion of a broom. I would recommend going to a detail liner to do this. Make that handle just a little bit darker. And I'm going to give the illusion of the little thing here. And whew, definitely should be going to a detail liner. Oh my goodness. Picking up way too much paint here. Okay, that gives us the look of a broom, basically. Okay, so the outside of the frame here, first I want to shade with a little bit of black on there. Shade around, around the outside edge with some black. Goodness. Try and keep it sign shape. That's really going to make the sign look a little bit even older. Just want to make sure my edges are straight here. before we finish out the sign, let's go work on the stand. And so we're going to float with black right here at the base. I need to get my bigger brush out. Walk that down just a little bit. We're going to, if you need to draw where your post is, you can draw that in. Because we're going to take this paint along the back and bring it up to that post and float some black right in there. And we'll do it on this side as well. And we're going to go along the front edge here. And shade more on this side. Darken that back there a little bit. And we'll go down the edge of the post on the left side. No, it's the right side, sorry. Upside down, it's the left side. Walk that over just a little bit. I want that to be a little bit wider. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then we'll just add a highlight on here. Just with white. So we'll come down this side. Work that into my brush a little bit. Come down this side of it. And we'll come around this edge. Just do a bright little highlight on there. A little bit down this edge. Alright, so we want a little bit of a white highlight up here as well. And you can just use a detail liner for this. You do not have to do it like I'm doing it on the chisel edge of the brush. It is a personal preference. I am trying to make it match my original sign as close as possible. Okay, so that has the base done. Brighten this here. Not get the paint to come off my brush. A bit brighter right there. Okay, that is our post. So now we're going to finish out the up here. So if you want to transfer on your letters, let's say Broom parking only, you can do that. I'm going to just write mine in. just going to go over it with my Identi-Pen. I want to create the frame in here now. So we're going to start with white. And you can use, if you have, let me grab one. Okay, I wanted to grab some pens and show you some options that you can have. So we can paint in our lines and do our wording with our paintbrush. We can use an Identi-Pen, which I sell these on my website. It has a narrow tip and a fat tip. This tip is a 4mm. So we could use that for our black parts, which is probably what I will use for my writing. I think it's what I did on my original one. You can get these Posca pens on Amazon. They are 7mm and they are paint pens, and I have one in black and one in white. And I'm thinking I may have used my white one on my original to do the white line. But for now, I'm going to try and write in my letters. And I must have used the paint pen because that's not coming out very dark. It's picking up that pencil. So let me see if I can do it with this. Might be too fat. Okay, so I wrote in my lettering with this. You have to be careful. I'm pretty sure on my original one I used this, but I didn't write it on first, so it didn't pick up the pencil. I just wrote it. I didn't write it with the pencil first. So this works pretty good for that. I'm going to use the fat end of this and outline my sign here. And try and go just a little bit past the line that I've drawn on here so that I can have room for my white to be on there. Okay. I know that I used this on my lettering up here and here. So we will be using this for the lettering part. Once this is dry, I'll erase my lines. Now for the white here, we can use our white pen, paint pen, or we can use our white paintbrush. Completely up to you. I'm going to try this pen because I don't really remember on my original one what I used. And it's just a thin line inside that black line. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to get that little dot off of there that I put on there. So these are just paint pens, and I'm ordering some not like this, a different brand, to see if they're going to be as good of one that I can possibly sell, but I don't know yet. So I didn't quite get my sign the same width up here on the frame, but it's okay. I'm going to add a little bit more on my broom handle here. And then just a couple of little strokey things in my broom itself, a little bit of brown in there. And that pretty much finishes out our sign here. I'm going to erase my graphite lines behind these letters. So that's the sign. It is done. So we're going to go up and finish this sign and then finish this door, because our broom handles may come up into this sign a little bit. So we want to make sure that this one is completely done before we add those line drawings in there. Alright, I've got my letters transferred on. I'm going to use my Identipen, the narrow tip, to just outline all of my letters. And then I'm going to come in and fill in the dark areas with the fatter end. You can also just paint these in. Now I feel like my B is too close. So I'm going to lower it down a little bit, hopefully keep it straight, and my R as well. Okay, not the best trace job there. Oh, got the fat end open. So now I'm just going to fill in the fat areas of my letters with, and you can keep using the more narrow tip if you want. If you feel like you have a more steadier hand with that, or if you're just painting them in, just go right ahead. I'm just giving you some options here of some things that you can do. I feel like my M dropped down there. We're going to fill these in, let them dry a little bit, and then I'm going to erase all my graphite lines. And then come back with the more narrow tip and touch up any areas where I didn't quite get it filled in. So there is that one. It's kind of messy, so I'm going to have to do some straightening up there. And then this one over here, we can do the same thing with it. You can use your Identipen or your paint pen. So I'm just going to go off camera and do that, since it's just basically tracing letters, and come back and we'll finish up our door and our sign. They won't take very long at all to finish. Alright, let's finish out these signs here. I'm going to use my Identipen, the fat end, and go around this sign right here. Hat right there. Okay, and then the outside edge of the black one, we can go around it and just kind of make sure it is straight. It's probably best that you do this not on your spinning table, because my hand keeps wanting to move. And then I'll just outline down here on the bottom. Okay, so that's pretty easy on the door. I'm going to wide angle out so we can see both of them at the same time. Alright, so oops, for the white part, I'm going to use my white paint pen. You can use white paint, but if you have one of these pens, They come in pretty handy for this. So we're just going to do a narrow white line next to the black line. Okay, and then on the door we're going to do a white line inside here on the glass. And this just kind of cleans all of our edges up and straightens everything up for us and makes it nice and neat. Oh, the bottom of my door does not look straight by any means. So now we're going to finish out this handle here. We're going to highlight with some white on the left side. Let that dry. A little bit of black will go on the other side. We don't want that handle to blend in with the door, so we're just giving it an easy little shade on that side. Okay? Now the last thing to do to the doors is something pretty easy. So I'm just going to take a dry brush. You can use an old dry brush if you want, and load with some white paint. Maybe if I can get some of this paint out of here. Should just get some new paint, huh? I'm going to work it into my brush a little bit. And then we're just going to drag some of this across. You want to make sure you have all your graphite lines erased. We're just going to dry brush some of this across our glass and give it a little bit of a shine. Alright, I'm going to have to get some fresh white out here. I just went right into my black. So try and get all the moisture out of this brush now. Load it. I'm going to remove most of the paint out of it on a dry spot on my paper towel. And then just dry brush at an angle. Try to keep all of your angle stuff going the same direction. I'm going to go on the chisel edge now and just put some really sharp lines on it. Okay, so that finishes out the glass on that one, and we'll do the exact same thing over here on the door. We're going to dry brush. This will help cover up our letters if we didn't get them very well. Just take them down where they're not popping in your face. I didn't do the ones on this door very good at all. So again, I'm just going at an angle. And then I'll go up on the chisel edge and create some really bright areas on here. Just a few. Don't let them get too carried away. And that finishes off our doors, although I feel like I could just scoot a little bit more paint across those. Okay, that finishes the door and the window. They're done. Alright, so now all we need to do is transfer on our brooms and our leaves, and we'll finish those up. Those will be our last things we need to add. So I'm going to get those transferred on. We're going to come back and paint all that stuff in. One thing I want to do before I add my broom pattern in, this back here is not near dark enough. I didn't think it would be after I finished it, so we're going to float some black along back here. We want this much darker. And that means we're going to have to go through everything like this. Won't be seen too much because of the brooms, and I'm just going to very lightly mop all of that. And then over here we're going to go underneath the door and darken that. And back here we need it to be on both sides. Back here needs to be darker. I don't have to do too much through there because that's kind of covering it up. Okay. So we just needed to darken that back there. It definitely needed it. Definitely needs it in front of the door here. So I think that looks much better. My door is not straight. That kind of bugs me, so I may go off camera and fix that, but for now I'm going to get these painted in. Okay, the rest of my base coats are in for my 3 brooms and for all of my leaves. You can do as few or as many leaves as you want, or leave the leaves off completely. I did them just scattered throughout. This piece is not as big as this one, so this one got a few more leaves than my original painting did. But we're ready to start working on the brooms. The brooms will go very fast. We don't have but a few colors on there. And then I'm going to show you how to do just a few leaves, one of each color probably, and then I'll go off camera and finish the rest of the leaves, and then we'll come back and see if we want to do any detail whatsoever to the outside edge of this. So let's get ready to paint in our brooms. Let's finish up this project, so let's get in here on these brooms. The purple broom here, I've done all my base coats. The purple broom is Wild Orchid, olive green, and then turquoise blue here. So, and you can mix a little bit of white in the color to go down here on the straw part of the broom. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to mix the base color with just a little bit of white and streak that down through here on top of that base color and just get a little bit lighter texture on each one of these. I'm just using a small round brush. You can use a detail brush as well. I'm going to go ahead and put the a little bit more of that base color in there. This is a goes across there like that, and then this one here, I'll just take a little bit of that turquoise and a little bit of white, and I'll just start bringing this down here like this. Okay. The brooms are going to be pretty easy to complete. I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of technical issues here. So I'm going to take a side load of plum and go down each side of my broom handle here. Got my broom handle a little bit fat on this one. I'm going to let that side dry. I'm going to switch over to my green one, and it's Hauser Dark Green to shade on this one. Take it right down into that. Smooth that out a little bit. And then the blue one, or the turquoise one, we're going to do ultramarine blue. Okay, I'll let that dry. I'm going to go back to the purple one here and do the other side of it. Whew. I really got this broom handle very fat. Oh, paint on the wrong side of my brush here. I'm trying not to fill in the whole handle, which can be a little bit tricky when the handle is pretty narrow. Try and get all the moisture out of my brush so I can just put paint in here. In these tighter areas like this, we don't really need too much moisture in there. Alright, let's go to the green one. And go to the opposite side with the Hauser Dark Green. And then the blue one we will do with the ultramarine blue. And we might have to repeat these to get them a little bit darker, because most of these colors, except for the plum, the green and the blue, are transparent colors. So they won't go on the darkest. But while that's drying, I'm going to work a little bit on the broom down here. And since I'm already in the blue, I'm just going to take the chisel edge of my brush and just put some of this ultramarine blue along the bottom. I also want to put some right here where it meets the bristles on the brush. And a few more of these in here. Just on the chisel edge, pulling those up. Okay. I'm going to go over to the green one, and I think I'll grab my round brush for it and go into some of that Hauser. And definitely needs to have water. Not flowing. And we'll put a few of these in here, mostly on this right side, and a few up in here. Oops. Alright, let's add some plum to this one. So we want a little bit underneath here. And then over here on this side, and then above it here, and then up here we'll have some. Alright, I'm going to redo all of the handles one more time, get a little bit more. Now you can add a little tiny bit of black into these if you wanted to. I did not, so I'm going to go ahead and shade try to shade underneath this thing here, and then above it, and start creating that thing on the broom. And then I'll go down this side real quick, and then we just have the highlights on that. I'm going to do a little bit of shading out here on the edges, so we'll move on to the green one. Water in my brush here. Go underneath this and above it, and go up the other side of the handle. I want to do the outside edge of that binding. Right here, just a little bit on the outside edges. Go back to the pink one and do that same thing out here. A little bit of shading out there, and then we will darken the blue one. The handle, shading on the handle, up on the tip of the brush here. And then we're going to do, I'm just going to float a little bit of shading here on this back side, the bristles. Okay, now let's add some lighter colors in here. I'm going to grab my small round, but you can certainly grab your detail liner, and let's start highlighting. So we're going to take some white, and I'm going to have my base color out as well. And I'm going to mix a little bit of my base color in there with some white. It's going to be mostly white. Streak some of this in here, a little bit up here. I'm going to put some down the center of our handle across here, and we're going to come back in and put some of our base color back in there. We'll do the same thing with the green one. We'll take a little bit of the green and some white. And we'll begin streaking this over here, across the center here, and up in the strawy area coming up there, and then a little bit down the center of the broom handle. And then our turquoise, we're going to mix it with some white. Just brush mix your colors. Don't worry about any specific ratio amount. We're just getting a really light blue here. And a little bit down the handle. And then we need to darken everything. So before I shade again, I'm going to streak a little bit of my base color back in there, I think. Just in the broom. one. Okay, let's go with our shading color. This is just kind of back and forth here with your colors. It's not going to take a whole lot to do these, so a little bit over here. We're going to shade these in just a second. We just want to put a little bit of these colors back in here. Okay, so now we're going to shade. We're going to take our plum and we'll shade underneath here again and above it. Get that all nice and shaped there. And a little bit here. And we are going to shade a nice soft float along the right side and just gently walk it over. Okay, we'll come back and highlight the other side. We want that shading to dry. We're going to do the same thing on the green one. We're going to just increase some shading here. A little bit of water. I'm going to shade this side of it. A little bit more next to our binding part. And then we'll add highlight on the other side. And the blue. Alright, I'm going to take my detail liner and thin out some white. And we're going to stroke some highlights in here. Across here, a little bit here. A bit too much paint there, or water or something on my brush. We'll add some through here, a little bit through here. And then here, we'll pull some highlight down into the broom bristles. And I think that's really going to finish up our brooms. They're pretty easy, not a lot of necessary steps to them. We just want to keep them looking like a broom. Okay. Put a little bit of green down here. A little bit of shadow down in there. And I think that is going to finish the brooms. Trace this line down here. So all we have left to do are the leaves. And I'm just going to show you 3 or 4 leaves on here. The colors that will be using is olive green, turquoise blue, wild orchid, plum, and then we'll highlight with snow white. So as you can see on here, we just put the color at the base, 2 coats of whatever color you're using, and then just white at the tip. And then we just made a little stem thing coming off of it with a dark gray value. So it's going to be super easy to do. So let me make sure I've got all my paints out before we start. Alright, I'm going to do a couple of leaves here. I'm going to do one in each color. So we're going to do one that has green on the base of it. So this is olive green. You're going to want to use mostly just straight paint with not a lot of water in your brush. So just pick a couple of leaves. You can have your leaves going any direction that you want. And we'll do green on those. We'll have turquoise on some. This is just at the base of the leaf. So I'll do a couple with turquoise. We want a couple of layers of color on here, so because that yellow is going to mix with the paint at first and cause the paint to change color. So we want to be sure and do 2 coats of each. We're going to do a few with plum. So I'm just going to pick a couple on here and do them with plum. Just doing at the very base or back or end, not the tip. And then I did some with some plum. Nice, beautiful plum color. Okay. I'll do this one over here with plum. Goodness. A lot of time with that one. Okay. So I want to repeat all of those colors. We want 2 coats. So our green, olive green, okay, then turquoise blue, let's see, and some plum. And then no, that was wild orchid. This is plum. Okay, so that is how you're going to do the base of all of them. You pick and choose whatever color, wherever you want it to go is perfectly fine. Then we're going to do all of the tips with white. You see that yellow was just a foundation for our leaves. All of the tips are going to get white on them. And you may have to do this twice to get it to be bright, because the white will fade back down in there so quickly. So we'll do 2 coats on here. I forgot we've got to add a little bit of wash of color on our stones, and we'll also be shading underneath these leaves. But I will go off camera and finish all of these leaves. Now for the stem, we're just going to make a dark, let me put some black out, a dark gray. So just mix your black and your white together and make a dark gray. And we're just going to pull a stem on these. And that one, I might have to add a little bit of white to that one. And this one, so that we can see them. So you'll do this to all of them. Just pull a stem in them, whatever direction they're going. You'll just pull that stem in there. It could be a little bit lighter gray. You could use Hauser dark green and mix a little bit of, I don't know, I really like the dark gray for the stem. I think it just sets it off. Okay, so I'm going to go finish the leaves. I'll come back and show you how to float. Well, actually, I'll just show you that right now. We're going to float underneath them. And we're just going to do this with a sheer float of black, because this is what we're going to float underneath all of the elements. Underneath the witch, underneath the cat, the witch. We already did it in front of the door, so we'll do a little bit in front of the broom here, and on this side of the stand, which I should have waited to paint that leaf in, so I'll have to go around the leaf a little bit here, a little bit underneath right here. And all of the leaves get this soft black little float under here. It kind of gives them a little bit of a raised look. And we just want it to be a nice soft little float. So don't have tons of paint on your brush. And it's just going to give them a little bit of a shadow underneath the leaves a little bit. So you see I kind of followed the shape of the stem right there so I could get a little bit more of a shadow. So that's how we're going to do that. So I'm going to finish my leaves, put all of my shadows underneath everything, which is just the soft black. So read your instructions. It says to shade underneath the sign, the broom stand, the witch, the broom, the leaves, the cat, all with a sheer float of black. Make sure it's sheer because it will take over. All right, I'll be back. Okay. I'm going to put a little dot in the cat's eye. For a little highlight. I'm not really sure I like that now that I stuck it in there. It looks ginormously big. So I'm going to take that out. Cover it up with some black paint. Okay, I'm just going to leave the white highlight off of the cat's eyes. Okay, so now I'm trying to decide if I want to shade around the outside of this piece with a color, like a soft wash of black or something to kind of set it and bring it all together. Now, on my original one, I did put some little washes of like the blue and the pinky colors on the stones. I'm not sure that that's necessary. I really like the stones being more visible, but I really feel like it needs some kind of shading, maybe just up on the upper part of it. So I think we'll do that with some black. I'm going to side load a very soft sheer wash of color on an angle brush. Work it into your brush till it is nice and sheer. And then we'll go around the edge of it down to there. And we'll look at it and see if we want to do that to the lower half. This is just soft black. I'm going to come along on the window of the door as well. Just a scooch of this color. Maybe just a tiny bit more. Too much water. Too much paint, too much water. Okay, that looks pretty good on the top And I think I'll leave the bottom like it is. Now, if you want to go all the way around it, then go for it. I think for now, I'm just going to leave it just like that. That's going to finish our little broom parking design up. I think it has been just the cutest project ever to paint. I really hope that you have enjoyed painting this. It's a long project, I know. But it's got a lot of detail in it. So a lot of steps for each thing, but it turned out exceptionally cute. So thank you all so much for painting with me. I so appreciate you taking the time. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, please give me a thumbs up, a like, a share, comment. I appreciate every single one of you that watch my videos. Thank you all so very much. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.